Good evening. Welcome to the Living in Utah live question and answer session here. Thursday evening. I try to make it every single Thursday, and I'm calling it Throw It Out There Thursday. Any questions that you might have, just throw them out there, and I'll do my very best to answer them. Tonight, I'm also going to talk about, I try to do it once a month, the real estate market. Where are we at? What is the current average price in a variety of counties? Try to pick the big counties that we have in the state that are popular or that I get asked about from time to time. And as I go over that, I might be a little bit surprised. Most of our counties are seeing an increase in price. I think part of the fact is a few weeks back in the February timeframe, interest rates actually dropped. The mortgage rates dropped. And with buy downs, et cetera, there were some people getting into the 4% range. So people were swooping up some houses, taking advantage of it at the time. So it depends. It's amazing how the market can teeter-totter a little bit, and it brings out more buyers. So, and sometimes more sellers. But happening here in Utah, today's news in Utah, we have a big trial going on with Gwyneth Paltrow. Most people probably are familiar with the name. She was involved in a skiing accident with an individual from Utah, and he sued her, saying that he suffered damages from the collision. So the trial's been going on for a few weeks, and it's been headline news in the Utah news. Actually, nationally, it's been broadcast around the country. And the verdict came in today that she was not at fault, causing this individual's injuries. So I'd love to know, what's your opinion? Do you think this was a money grab from this individual, or do you think she was actually guilty of inflicting harm on the individual? So interesting to hear some comments on that there. All right, the Utah real estate market. Let's see here. All right, so I'm going to start at the top of the state. We refer to as Cache County. Cities like Logan, Utah is the popular city in that area. In March, and March has one more day to go, but we're average price of about $433,000. We are up from $426 the month before and $408. So we're seeing an increase. Prices starting to go up. We're also seeing the sales numbers increase. Go from about 59 to 64 to 70 units. So we're seeing more activity in the market. Let's drop down to the next county that we have below Cache County, which would be like Box Elder County. Brigham City, Tremonton are some of the popular cities. A little bit of a decrease in this particular county. We went from about 435 to 376. Sales numbers are about the same. 45 in February, 42 in March. They're selling about the same amount of homes in that area. Prices dropped. Probably about the only county that we've seen a little bit of a price decrease as opposed to increase. Okay, the next county down would be Weber County. Cities like Ogden, Utah, North Ogden, South Ogden, Roy, West Haven. Well, there's quite a few cities in Weber County. And we are at $399,000, up from the month before of $380,000. So we're starting to see an increase. We're also seeing transactions increase. In January, about 197, 249 in February, 254 so far in March. We do have one more day in March. So that number will probably finish out probably around maybe 260, 270. So we are seeing an increase. Let's drop down to the next county below, which would be Davis County. Layton, Kaysville, Bountiful are some of the popular cities. Syracuse. We are looking at an average price of $475, up from $470 the month before. And in this county, we are also seeing transactions increase. January is about 193, February 265, 288 in March. Probably hit about 300 by the time transactions close tomorrow. Next county, Salt Lake County, the largest county we have in the state of Utah. Salt Lake City, West Valley, Mill Creek, Murray, a variety of cities. And once again, we are seeing price increase. Average of about $535, $525 in February, $515 in January. Transactions increasing. January was about $596, $769 in February. And in March so far, about 910 transactions. That probably finished the month, a little higher than that, 925 possibly. So we're seeing an increase. The next county would be Utah County, Provo, Orem, Eagle Mountain, Saratoga Springs, Lehigh. Average price $499, $499.9, $475 would be the median sold price. The month before was $464, so we're seeing an increase. Transaction wise, January $482, February $660, March $651 in March. I would imagine by the time tomorrow finishes up, we'll probably be matching that $660 in February. So about the same numbers as the month before. So if we look at the southern part of the state, Washington County, popular city down there would be St. George, Utah. And we are seeing an increase in St. George. $492 in February, $524 in March. Transactions are also increasing. January about 107, 116 in February, 158 in March, plus a few more to close out the month tomorrow. So we are also seeing increases in the St. George market. So overall, when I look at the state, we are seeing increases. And I feel the main reason was in February when we got interest rates came down and people were buying down. A lot of people who locked into homes in February, usually takes about 4 weeks to close on a home. We're closing in March. So kind of trailed over. Interesting to see what happens from March into April. I think it's all going to depend on interest rates at this moment. Spring fever home. We normally sell more homes in the springtime. So we'll see how that goes as the economy goes and interest rates go up and down and do what they have to do. The Federal Reserve just increased the base rate by 0.25% last week. So that will not help any kind of lending, whether it's automobile, housing, credit cards, you name it. Federal Reserve has stated that they plan on bumping rates even more. But today, there was some good news on the inflation front. Well, I don't know how you can say this is good news. The unemployment rate was higher than what they anticipated. While they're raising rates, one of the things that they wanted to do was to increase the unemployment. And so they're starting to see those numbers increase. by today's report, and that could change in the weeks coming up. But anyways, it was there's a little bit of a sign when I see some of the inflation numbers, some of the other numbers of it's starting to stabilize. And the tough thing with the Federal Reserve, in my opinion, when they go up and down with the rates, it takes a long time for reaction. So, or the effects to kick in. When the rates were coming down through COVID, it wasn't instantly that we saw record home sales, record home prices. It's just rates came down, and then from there on, it started going up. So now that the rates are going up, they may be able to put the brakes on some of this, because in the upcoming months, we might see some of these numbers starting to go the other direction. Inflation maybe go down. So there is a little bit of a sign that possibly we might have come towards a top, is what I read into a lot of the numbers that I'm seeing, especially with the unemployment number I saw today. So we might be plateauing to where interest rates are going to stay stagnant for a while. So I get asked the question many times, will interest rates go back down to 3%? I don't see anything in the horizon showing it's going to go back down to 3%, but that could change. So that could definitely change. Okay. Are there any reasonable priced plots of property in Logan to start a small farm? Wow. So I know a little bit about that. So my relatives, my father-in-law passed away about a year ago, but is an Idaho farmer. So I know the farming industry a little bit. So I would imagine for a small farm, you would need a minimum of 20 to 40 acres. Unless you were looking at something, if you had a couple acres, you could produce enough for your family and friends and stuff like that. But to make any kind of living off something, I would imagine you would probably need at least 20 acres and above. There is land there. The hard thing, the battle that is happening around the country. Okay. And I know this firsthand because I invest in farm property and I look for farm property all the time. I do mailers. I call people. I love renting out farm ground to farmers, but it's really tough because the big boys are in it. China's buying up all our land. Bill Gates is buying up all our farmland. They own more farmland than anybody else in the country. I have been outbid by some big boys literally coming in. There was a piece of property I was looking at that was $800,000, and some big boys came in and they took the price up to $1.5 million. Basically was telling me, we're taking it. I didn't have much choice. But so as far as reasonably priced, it's tough. It's competitive because not only the larger lots being taken by billion-dollar investors, they all want to be in the land business. They want the farm ground. So the smaller lots are being gobbled up by the home builders. It's hard to find land to develop. So they're really interested in the 20 acres, the 30 acres, the 40 acres. And when they can sell a third of an acre for $150,000, $130,000, fully developed. They go in, they put the sewer and the water. It's sometimes hard to buy 10 acres, 20 acres, 40 acres at maybe a reasonable price because the home builders will come in. They'll pay millions, literally millions of dollars, because they know they can subdivide it and make very, very good money. So I don't know if that answered your question. I guess where I'm going with that is there are pieces of property that come up 10, 20, 30, 40 acres bigger. Sometimes comes at a price tag. Now, trying to find something that is maybe in the 1 acre category, a little bit easier to find. 1 acre gives plenty of if you want to have a garden type thing that you wanted to feed families or your own family and more, it can definitely be done. So I'm on a third of an acre and we just have a corner piece, probably 20 foot by 40 foot that we do our own little home garden in. And we have so much food a year that we give all the neighbors, my family members, my brothers, we supply them with vegetables throughout the summer. So yeah, plenty. But yeah, land's tough these days. It's really tough. The big boys, it scares me. It really does scare it. Right now, you think food prices are high. I think we're going to look back at today and go, wow, meat only costs X amount. Vegetables only cost X amount. A lot of the farms we have across the United States right now, the farmers typically own the land, been handed down for generations. Their operating costs are lower, and it's typically reflected in the price. Now you're getting these big boys in. You're getting the billionaires coming in. They're trying to buy everything up and rent it to the farmers. Well, the big boys sometimes want big money in rent. That's what scares me. So these farmers will have to pass that on to us consumers. So if they get to the point of where most of your farmers don't own the land, they have to rent the land. They've got tractor payments, they got combine payments, employee payments. It's all going to add into the equation, and the potato prices are going to go up, and everything else is going to go up. I can see it happening. So thank you. Is for a personal family feeding size, a few acres, perfect. Yeah. I mean, if you just had 1 acre, like a house on 1 acre, oh yes. It's like I say, we have just a small area out back, and in that area, well, we have two spots. We also have some around the deck. We have some areas that we had flowers in. We actually took them out, and we put we had onions down the one side, and we had strawberries on the other side. But we have grown in our little area potatoes, corn, tomatoes, a variety of tomatoes. I should say my wife grows all this. This is her big hobby. I pretty much just do the sprinkler lines and everything else. But we do zucchini, radish, beets, carrots, corn, and peppers. And we have plenty. I give to family members vegetables all the time. Just grows and grows and grows. Doesn't stop. So if you even had a half acre, 3/4 acre, 1 acre, and you dedicated 40 foot by 40 foot or 80 foot, it'd be a huge, huge garden. Way more food. And there's years that I've got covered right over here that we can tomatoes, we make salsa, we make spaghetti sauce, a variety of things that we have sitting in the shelf. So that's on top of what we've eaten and given away throughout the year. And we give a lot to charity too. I'm always at the homeless shelter donating vegetables. So in the summer months when we have them. So yeah, in Utah, if you're not from Utah, like I say, everything that I mentioned, we've had success growing. Onions, potatoes, all of it. Some years are better than others. Corn is definitely a tough one from time to time. Sometimes we've had great corn. Sometimes we've had it's a little bit tough on the kernel. tomatoes grow like crazy. I mean, there's no problem with tomatoes, and beets and radish and carrots. I mean, I get carrots that come out that are this big. So, and our strawberries, they just constantly. So constantly. Let's see. It sounds like a lot of what we have here in South Carolina. Any berries? Raspberry, blueberry, blackberries. I'm not familiar with anybody that has grown any of those particular berries. Strawberries. We don't have a problem with strawberries, but I've been in many homes. What's also popular here is the fruit trees. Apple, pear. I've been in quite a few houses in their backyards that have fruit trees, and it's just an abundance, a huge abundance. So fruit trees are very popular here. So, but I don't think I don't recall being in anyone's house that's got raspberries, blueberries, or blackberries. But like I say, I'm not a farmer. Not an expert in farming, but we have no problem with strawberries every year. So my guess would be that the blueberries and raspberries would probably grow just as well. Pretty much I don't know of something that we have not had any success with. I mean, I don't. The corn is, we do cucumbers too. And we've actually, my wife has won awards at the local fair on some of the zucchinis, and we got zucchinis that are this big. So I've had zucchinis that big. Yeah. Oh yeah. Watermelon. We've grown watermelon. It's tough to tell when watermelon is ripe. We've tried a few different tricks, but yeah, watermelon has grown. So corn's the only one that I'm a little iffy on. I don't know if sometimes if the summers get a little too hot, but we've had some corn that the kernels have been tough. Maybe we've picked it too late. But then we've had other years where the corn has just been fantastic. So I don't know if that's something to do with maybe the heat. Possibly. So any more questions this evening that I could answer for anybody before I call it evening? Call it a night. We are expecting more. We have had a record winter here, over 700 inches of snow total. That's not like down in the valley here. They measure that in the mountains. But ski resorts are loving it. The other weekend I was up at Snow Basin, and some of the signs most years you can see the sign and the snow is above the signs in some areas. So we've had rain and snow mixture all week. We had rain and snow mixture today. We are due for some rain and snow mixture tomorrow. And this is unusual. End of March, beginning April. Normally, I usually say it end of February. That's about it. Typically in March, when the temperatures rise, it's normally not snow. We'll get some rain. March, April, May. Not uncommon to have rain, but not to have the snow. So it's doing good. Sounds like we'll need 5 acres now. So many new ideas. Yeah, I mean, if you're a gardener, my wife's a farmer's daughter, so I don't know if there's something here that you cannot grow. Like I say, everything that I've mentioned. We have no fruit trees. I've been in many backyards that have fruit trees and they grow very well. So the fruit trees go, and everything that I mentioned year after year, we plant. And a lot of it, we only do small amounts, like the onions. We only do a small amount. We don't go through a lot of onions. The peppers, we don't go through. Mostly the onions and the peppers we use for making salsa. We do a variety of tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, 4th of July, Roma tomatoes, and there's some others. I think my wife buys like 5 varieties. So the tomatoes go really well. Cucumbers are great. I'm a big fan of beets. The beets, I've had beets come out of the ground that are that big. We've done a variety of beets. We've done the traditional red beet. We've also done the golden beets. Carrots. I've had carrots that are this big. So, and potatoes. We've had success with potatoes. But the potatoes might be a little bit different, they take some time to grow. So sometimes you'll get a seed. If you're doing it from a seed potato, um, you can grow them a little bit faster. But if you're doing it from the tiny little seed, it might take a little longer. Oh yeah, potatoes second year now. Yeah, that's very common. So my father-in-law is in Idaho. One of the things that he grew was potatoes, and he was where in his area, he was a seed grower. So they would get the potatoes to the point at where then it would cut them, and then they would get shipped to a commercial on pretty much on the west side of the state of Idaho. And over there is the commercial growers, and then they put the seed potatoes in the ground to make the bigger potatoes. So yeah, potatoes. But if you're starting out with the little ones, you can grow them the same year. That's what we've done. But we don't do a lot of potatoes. Very rare is just we have access to potatoes, so I guess we just don't do potatoes as much. But okay, I appreciate all the questions. I'm going to call it an evening. Thank you very much.